In this series, we're going to reinforce a lot of the React concepts that we talked about by building the game lobby and rock, paper, scissors game that we've built earlier on, only this time we're going to do it with React. You know that using vanilla JavaScript, we basically had to babysit every element on the DOM. We had to spoon feed every element what kind of change does it need to do in response to any other data change that happens. We had to look through all the elements, find the elements that we're interested in, and apply the changes that we want manually to each one of those items. React's answer to that is very simple. Keep the truth in the state and build declarative components that reads the state and render the UI accordingly. So whenever the state changes, React re-renders. No longer those manual, go find this div and apply this color to it. Now to save us some time, I already spun up a React project using Vite here, and I copied a lot of the files that we're interested in from our previous assignment, including all the avatar files, including updating our CSS file to basically bring in all these styles that we've created in our previous assignment. And now we're gonna be rebuilding this application here, only this time we're gonna do it in React. Now, the first concept that we really need to instill is how do we think in React? How do we know what are the components that we want to build? What are the components that we need to create? Where do we store our state? Which component do we put the state in? In this series, we're going to be going over all of that, but let's start with building a component tree, figuring out all the elements that we need to do, and maybe create a stub or a mock component for each of those. And then we'll start rebuilding our components or rebuilding our game into those components as we go in those videos. So let me switch over to my app here. And now, if we were to recreate this thing right here, now we can see that we have one card. That card includes a form. The form has a place for you to type in the player name, a place for you to choose the avatar that you're interested in, a place for you to select the difficulty level and to toggle on and off the dark theme. And I need to provide a name here. And once you have all of those stored, you also get this greeting up on the top. And from there, you're able to start the game. Let me save this here again. And if I start the game, it takes us to this other page or this other view. And that view right now shows us the player information, the location for the game itself. So from here, I'm able to play the game. We get a history list. We get the scoreboard and we see what is the currently selected difficulty level. And then if we refresh the game, the high score section will also update and show us what was the highest score that was scored in this game. Now let's go back and to the setting here and let's create that in React. Now we know that we're gonna have to have some sort of a div component with the class of card that is gonna contain our, let's just do an h2 for now and call this settings instead of player settings. And then inside of this, we're going to have a paragraph in which we're going to have our greeting. We're also going to have some sort of a form. This is where we're going to have our player name, the avatar selection. We're also going to need to have our difficulty, the theme, and a button to save, and a button to start the game. Now, obviously, this is not exactly how we're going to keep everything. We're just trying to create this component tree just so we know what are the elements that we need to create. Let me switch back to this one. So this is basically what we're hoping to create right now. Now, we're also going to have another div of another card. This one is going to be for our actual game. So in the game, we're going to have a card. This card is going to contain basically the player information. And outside of that card, we had another, let me switch back to this view here. So here's the player information card. And then we had another one for the game itself. I'll call this game. Well, this is more like a game section. We're going to have a place to show current difficulty. We're going to have a place to show us the scoreboard and a place to show us the different buttons for our game. Call them action buttons. A button to reset the game. And at the end, we have another card which will contain our high scores. All right, so now at a high level, we know exactly all the elements that we need to create. Now we just need to start thinking about how do we start breaking that into separate components and where do we store the state that each of those components would be interested in. With that in mind, the next video, we're gonna start by breaking out these two big components into separate files, and then we'll see where we're gonna go from there.